Happy New Year to everyone. Welcome to Brain Balance Live, where we come together each week to discuss building those strong connections with our neurodiverse children. And each week we go over new tools to support you as parents. My name is Jessica. I am of Farmer Loves Phonics, if you want to check me out. And I'm a fellow parent and literacy advocate. And we are here with the amazing Heather Wells, our expert from the Brain Balance Centers near you in Texas. She is a therapist, certified cognitive specialist, and national autism speaker. Happy New Year, Heather. How are you?
Happy New Year. I can't believe it. But you know what? I haven't even written 22 a single time. I don't know what that's about.
Wow, that's impressive.
That's really nothing to brag about. On the flip side, I figured out while we were waiting to go live why before we started, I was like, what is wrong with my camera? And you could just see my nostrils and my mouth. I had zoomed in on my screen at some point, and that's why. So I haven't written 22, but I didn't realize why everything looked weird. But yeah, good. And I'm glad you had good holidays. And this was Jessica's first year to not be in the classroom. So she is this literacy expert and advocate, and everybody else was off. But I hope everyone out there had awesome holidays. And sometimes this time of year, and I think for a lot of the kids around here, school is resuming tomorrow. You kind of get the post-holiday blues, but then there's also this anticipation, new year, it's everywhere. New year, new you. And but some people are like, yeah, right. I say this every year, and then nothing ever happens. So that's kind of what we're talking about today. Or do you make New Year's resolutions?
So I didn't really this year. I've seen people who have come up with like a word to focus on. So I had thought about maybe doing something like that. I feel like a resolution is a lot of pressure sometimes. So I was hoping maybe today you can help us figure that out.
Yes, we're actually going to talk about the word thing that you're talking about. And like a lot of other things. There are so many New Year's resolutions have a very low success rate. But that doesn't mean all is lost. It means maybe we need to tweak how we're doing things, right? There is, our brain has this New Year effect, and there's in our cognition, our brains allow us to disassociate from when we fell short, when we're disappointed in ourselves in the past. And there's something about especially a new year. There are other new starts, the first day of school, new school year, new teachers, where there might be this hope. But then if we don't change what we're doing, sometimes it keeps going the same. And this is true for all of us. And then imagine someone trying to set goals if you're neurodiverse and maybe struggling with time blindness or disorganization or planning or focusing, impulse control, and then the shaming, what is wrong with me? That kind of thing. So the first slide kind of represents, I made this sort of, I think it will resonate with some people. New Year's resolutions, 2019, scratch that. 2020, all the way up to 2023, lose 20 pounds, 10 pounds, a few pounds. Get in shape, lift weights and do cardio for an hour, 5 days a week, maybe 4 or 3, and then now I'm not going to do weights, walk for 30 minutes, just walk around the block. You see how this goes. Declutter the attic and the bedroom closet, just the attic, at least organize the boxes. And if this resonates on any level, it probably does to one degree or another for virtually, I would say, the vast majority of people. Why does this happen? We have this. Why do we wait till January the 1st? It's cool that we have the excitement going into the new year. But the problem with that is once that newness is worn off, if we didn't do it right then, it's kind of this all or nothing thinking, and I didn't do it, and I'm a failure, and what is wrong with me? And so I'm going to give you some tips here. One thing is how we frame these really matters. I'm not a huge fan of New Year's resolutions. If you are listening to this and you set and work toward and you stay dedicated, go and pipe in and tell us your secrets. But for the majority of people, that doesn't work. So if you have set goals or New Year's resolutions, the power of words in the brain is immense. This is not just semantics. So you're just playing around with words. Your brain will associate New Year's resolutions or goals with what you perceive as failures in the past, and it can impact your mental health and your self-esteem. So sometimes simply thinking about this as a year-round commitment, that doesn't mean 365 days you're going to do it. Very few people do it perfectly every day. That happens a lot with diets. Oh, I fell off the wagon, and what's the point? I'll just get started again on Monday. See that whole newness effect, the new week, and then that time rolls around, and then there's a slip up, and then, oh, what's the point? So think about it as a year-round commitment, allowing for imperfection. Look at for progress. Maybe you want to call it a target or a focus for the year, or think about, I just want to make small, consistent tweaks. Actually, these work better than having an enormous goal up front. You could have a long-term goal, but you need to have very doable, reachable ones along the way. If you're climbing to the top of a mountain, every step you take, you're that much closer, right? You don't have to think about getting up to the peak in one step. That's not how life works. And there is also this anticipation effect that is extremely powerful in the brain. If any of you noticed that you felt more excited about your holiday plans, and then they didn't really quite live up to what I thought, they were nice, the brain actually benefits just as much and sometimes more from anticipating something good as when the actual thing happens.
Yeah.
And so, and having check-ins with it, whether it's for yourself and holding yourself accountable, or with your kids, how are they going? What's getting in the way? Talk about up front some things that can get in the way. Work through that with yourself. Get a buddy with your kids. Most of the time when we're pursuing something doesn't go right. When you kind of talk about that up front, you give real life examples, they are in a good state of equilibrium in that moment, because they're not frustrated by that hurdle that they're seeing. And what are some things you can do if this happens? Who can you reach out to? What can you do to help? Where can you get more information? And now they have a game plan, and you can have it written down. I love vision boards, but also approach versus avoidance goals. There is a 12% higher success rate with an approach goal. What that means is I am replacing one behavior with another. I am talking about what I am going to do instead of quitting something. And instead of I'm going to stop smoking or whatever, I am going to do these things and name them to live a healthy lifestyle. That is a much higher percentage in the brain. When it's just like if we have negative thoughts of thinking, we need to replace those thoughts, not just tell ourselves not to think them. Right? The same thing with behaviors. We replace one with another instead of just telling ourselves not to do something. That's hard for all of us, but especially those who struggle with impulse control. But imperfection is not a moral deficiency. That is one of the most important things I can probably say today, because so many people beat themselves up, whether it's kids or adults, when people, I hear, I'm such a loser, really horrible things. And those networks get wired in the brain. All of us, the imperfection is beautiful. Growth mindset. What did you learn? Celebrating mistakes. What was your favorite mistake today? If you fall off the horse, we all do. It's just about getting back on and not waiting for some magical special date to get back on the horse. Notice progress, not just when you get 100% to your goal. So important. But instead of judging yourselves, you want just observation. How is this going? Just like we want to replace behaviors, we're replacing habits. Habits are caused by a trigger. And I know we hear that word a lot in terms of trauma, but even with bad habits, it could even be, I'm bored. So then I just eat, and I didn't even notice those chips in my mouth. I was not even paying attention. And man, I just consumed 800 calories and didn't even enjoy it. Okay, boredom is a trigger for me. What is something else I can do? I can knit. What can you do to keep your hands busy? Where you are getting some sensory input, or chewing gum or something like that that replaces that thing? Or what can you do when you're bored? Be creative. Have a boredom box for kids, where they can create. By the way, creativity, it's not just a cool skill, and it's not reserved for artists, like the traditional sense of a painter, someone who draws or does music. Anytime you are using kind of inventive thinking, we need creativity for problem solving. That route didn't work. What's a workaround? Out of the box thinking, being able to see something from someone else's point of view. So many skills are nurtured when we're working on creativity. But how can I recalibrate this? Man, I am going to work out. I'm just using this one as an example because it's one of the top, goals. I am working out, but man, I hate it.
Yeah.
I don't like going to the gym, and it feels kind of creepy or whatever the thing is.
Mm-hmm.
What would make that task enjoyable? You want the process to be enjoyable. Who says you have to go to the gym to work out? Do you have hiking trails? Like, think of, I love nature. I love the water. Get creative. I would love to have, my best friend has a bike. I don't even have one. I gave it to my kid. What can you do that's going to make it enjoyable? And yes, allow yourself, you go to a party, not just totally going off, but some of these things everybody knows, but maybe you need to hear them. But another one of the most important things I'll say today is, if you find yourself having the same goals over and over and over, whether it's a resolution or not, and it keeps not happening, that usually indicates that you haven't really thought about the deepest layers of why you set that goal in the first place. So, for example, I want to lose weight. That takes it's a lot of work, right? Mm-hmm. Why do you want to lose weight? Because usually, if it's just because about looks or something, that usually that's not really connected to our hearts and souls. Right. As far as intrinsic motivation, I want to lose weight so I'll have more energy to play with my kids. And now you are seeing how it benefits you and other people. Most of us have a servant heart. We want to connect with and benefit other people, right? Mm-hmm. And wow, now this is about my health, longevity, my kids, being alive to see my grandkids. Connect it, not just lose weight. Oh, and like getting a bathing suit this summer. What's a deeper reason why? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm talking about what helps it stick. Mm-hmm. And then even when you answer one why, ask yourself, well, why is that important to me? Because I would move heaven and earth for my kids. What would they do? It really, there's a lot of introspection that goes on. And now this is something so meaningful, and the stick-to-itiveness goes through the roof. Teach your kids this. And one thing we got to be careful of when we talk to kids about why questions is, well, why do you want to do that? That can come across as shaming or derogatory. Oh, you're interested in that? Tell me more about that. That sounds interesting. You're still asking the why question without it sounding like, why do you like that TV show? Why do you like that color? Yeah, kids can misinterpret that. Or adults, by the way. We all have different opinions. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's move on. And here is a fun way to really get reflective and prepare for the new year. And if setting SMART goals is not your cup of tea, here are some other things to get going. One of the best things to do is to write a gratitude letter to the year 2022. And it can even be a few sentences. What are victories, good things that happened, awesome people you met, things you learned. Also, thank you for this challenge because I grew in this way because of that. Something new I tried was this, and it taught me this is so good for the whole family to do. And if kids see you doing it, they're going to buy in much, much more. Wow, when I try new things, even if I ultimately decide that's not what I'm all about, I learned something from it, and now I want to venture more. My favorite memory is blank because how much connection do you get? If you fill these out and you're sharing them like at a family meeting or just in your one-on-one quality time, and that also, you're finding what matters to your kids, even if they don't know how to define their values yet. It's really important to be talking to kids about, and I have a whole value slide, but our family's values as well as their personal values and where they overlap and where they might differ. And I'm not talking about, that may sound scary to some people, but we all have different things that we hold nearest and dearest to us, right? I'm most grateful for about 2022, because my word of the year, and this is what you were mentioning, that will be my driving force, that gives me clarity and passion and purpose is, you can pick a word of the year. John Gordon is an author and a leadership coach to huge corporations and sporting, like professional sports teams. He has written a book called One Word that you could get on Amazon. And there's an adult version and a kids version. You could also have a word of the month as a family, or a word of the quarter, word of the summer. Or you each have your individual words depending on development and how your family rolls. There's no right or wrong here. But what is a word? And it doesn't have to be your favorite word, because if we do that, we might have the same word every year, right?
True.
Love, passion. All of those things are fantastic. Maybe with your kids, you're like, please let your word be kindness or respect, or
yes.
It's better if they pick the word, but you can help, guide and get the brainstorming going in a direction.
Yeah.
But what is a word that really encompasses areas that you want to grow in different realms, whether, work, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, relational. Think about all of the avenues of life. For example, health. Health could be, okay, yes, because I want to lose weight so I have more energy and longevity for my kids and grandkids. I want mental health. I don't take enough time for self-care. Self-care goals are fantastic. So many times when we're talking about intentions or a focus or a target, we're thinking about some big health goal. Those are great. I mean, physical health, or getting organized, or, it's something so tangible and so, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want to be the best baseball player. How about goals where you are nurturing yourself? Because when we do that, we are in a much better position to give back to our families and to the world, right?
Absolutely.
But financial health, I want to start saving. So, and why? Because I want my kids to be able to go to college. Physical health. I'm behind on my doctor's appointment. Just think of a word that you could apply to multiple realms that most fits where you are and what you need to focus on this year. That's another way to go about it, and that sticks because it feels less daunting than some lofty. It's just another way to go. I'm giving you options. How fun is this with kids? Imagine that it's the end of 2023. Write or draw the people, events, and successes that made this your best year yet. So sometimes they might have a hard time knowing what to write or coming up with the words, but they start drawing and the wheels start turning, and also usually the mouth starts going too. There is a lot of times in therapy, art therapy, just having them do things with their hands, and closed off kids suddenly are opening up. That, by the way, our finger muscles and our mouth muscles are wired together in the brain, cranial nerve wise. It's not an accident that happens. Plus, fine motor skills slow us down. When we write things down, it slows down our brain because we can't write as quickly as we can talk. Also, it requires so much precision. It's very regulating. Looking ahead to 2023, something new I want to do. I will learn more about this. One way I want to grow. I'm excited about XYZ. And maybe it's a certain summer camp or something. I want to feel. How do I want to feel this year? How many times do we think about that? These are just sentence starters that you could journal, that you could talk about in a family meeting. And how intrinsically motivating is this? Because we're talking about what we want to do, what we want to learn, what we want to feel. Intrinsic motivation goes much further than a gold star, a trophy, a bonus at work, although those are nice. But that can be motivating, but that's an extrinsic motivator. Intrinsically, it stirs my soul.
Mm-hmm.
I do this because it's core to who I am. Dopamine, for if you have anybody out there who with diagnosed with ADHD or similar issues where you might think your kids are lazy or have a bad attitude, they're apathetic, task avoidant, dopamine function is not the same when I'm doing things that are core to who I am, goals that I made. And I'm getting to steer the ship of my life and what I want to learn and how I want to grow. I am more motivated to do it. The emoji that represents 2022. Just creativity, and that can be a funny thing, and it could be a silly face that has a lot of, depends on what your year was, and then that is just a good conversation starter. So you're reflecting on the previous year and moving into the new year without it feeling like a school assignment. This is fun.
Yeah.
Or creating a vision board. These are just ideas to kind of jumpstart, and they're great for kids and adults. Okay, let's move on. Okay, values. Now, a good way, if your kids don't know what values are, is to say they are guideposts to behavior. Just like we look at the red lights and the green lights and the stop signs so that we know what to do with our car. That's what values do in terms of the choices we make and how we behave and how we treat other people. Values are attributes that we want to define who we are as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Values are things that people cannot take from us. Values aren't just things you care about. We might care about financial security, but that can be taken away. True. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Values are about attributes. And so there's no right or wrong. I just threw some up here. Responsibility, growth, integrity, self-control, health, respect, forgiveness, purpose, love, self-compassion, courage, kindness, grit, generosity, perseverance, whatever, go through some words and talk about what they mean. And maybe this becomes your word for the year or the month, or maybe it's a family word, or you do it individually. But once we do that, time boxing values. Notice that I have these hands are holding this heart and it's in a shield. I'm going to protect these values. Okay, I already have values. Reflect on 2022. How much time did I spend on what I value most? And if the answer is not as much as you wish, time boxing means I block off time in my calendar to devote my focus and minutes and hours to the things that matter the most to me, or the things that are where I want to grow this year, or our family wants to grow this year. You block it off just like you do a doctor's appointment, an ARD meeting. It is blocked off, and you know what? That you want to block off family time. We value quality time. That is not a distraction. That is not unproductive. Nir Eyal, he is a behavioral scientist. Like he just accumulates lots of information. He's unbelievably smart. And he is really an expert on how to become less distractible. And one thing that I read years ago that he wrote, I'm like, it's just so simple and so brilliant. He said, the opposite of being distracted isn't attentive. It's traction. Distraction, the opposite of distraction is traction. Mm. Traction is things that get you closer to your goals and who you want to be and what you value. Distraction are the things that pull you away. If we don't know what we value, we don't know if something's a distraction or not. Okay, you might know that TV and video games are a distraction during homework time. I get it. But we're talking about in terms of if downtime is on your count, it's not a distraction. You value it, and that is getting you closer to who you want to be. Mm-hmm. And you can Google him he has all kinds of free resources where you can do habit trackers, like where does my time go? And really, if you want to get smarter with he is big on time management and distractibility, but his first name NIR, and his last name is Eyal. And you can Google him, and you're going to find him easily. Now, when we talk about what we want, when we say, I want to lose weight, do we mean it would be nice? That'd be nice. I mean, a lot of us would think that'd be nice if I lost weight, but do I really want to? If we truly want something, how about from now on, we use that word to mean, I have already considered the sacrifices, the time output, the give and take that it will require. And that makes the list. It would be nice versus sacrifice. I did that because it rhymes.
It sounds great.
But sometimes we beat ourselves up for not keeping up in pursuit of what we think we want. And it turns out we didn't really want it. We meant it would be nice if you valued it. And that can be a really self-compassion thing to tell yourself. And then ask yourself a lot of questions to figure out what really does matter to you. And maybe your goal is something you care about, but you haven't connected all the dots on why it matters to you. So Oprah Winfrey said, you don't become what you want, you become what you believe. And I would say, and value, right?
Yeah.
And of course, with the belief, if we have negative self-talk going on, and I believe I already have an identity attached to myself that I'm a person who gives up easily. I'm a person who doesn't stick with things. I'm not smart enough. We've got to retrain that. I've done so many shows about retraining negative rates of thinking and getting regulated. If you want to check those out on the videos tab. Okay, let's move on. Now, if I haven't scared you away from SMART goals, and I hope I haven't because they're also awesome, how do we not talk about SMART goals on this show? You don't have to do SMART goals. That doesn't work for everyone. Visualization works for some people, not others. But SMART goals are powerful. But those aren't just words: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. I'm sure most people watching this have heard of that before. But let's talk about what that really means. Specific, describe what you will do, where, and how you will reach your goal. It's not, sometimes when we hear specific, I think people just think that means that the goal is specific. Like, I will lose 30 pounds.
Right.
But it also is, these are the steps to get there. That's part of the specificity involved. Coming up with a game plan and then recalibrating along the way. And I can change course. Measurable. I will measure progress by what? And it doesn't have to be a number. If your kids have a kindness goal, how can we measure that? Well, if my friends don't get mad at me, usually somebody gets mad at me 5 days a week. And if it happens to because I lash out at them, and if that doesn't happen, or if I get comments like this and this, that means that I'm becoming, my kindness is growing. So keep that in mind. Measurable doesn't have to be a number. Achievable. I know I can do it because. Now, this is important for like positive self-talk, and everything, but ask your kids in a very supportive way, and you're showing interest along the way, nothing accusatory, judgmental, nothing negative, but I want to make, I recommend that these be kid-led SMART goals, because when you help kids walk through the process, they're going to be much, much, much more motivated to stick with a goal that was their idea. Back to the intrinsic motivation thing we talked about earlier. In so doing, you are growing critical thinking, problem solving, decision, time management, organization, prioritizing, initiation, so metacognition, thinking about your thinking, cognitive flexibility. You are growing so many skills that will benefit them in the things that you wish were their goals. So if you've never done this before, I recommend it being a kid-led SMART goal first, but achievable. Okay. That is such an interesting goal. I love that you're interested in that. Now, tell me what it is that makes you, you're going to talk about doable and little baby steps on the ladder and give examples of what you're setting. But if you're kid is a senior in high school and has made D's and F's because they're super smart and not a, whatever the reason is, they're misunderstood, the accommodations or whatever the thing is. And they're like, I want to go to Harvard Law School and skip 4 years of college. I mean, that's not realistic, right?
Yeah, right.
So we don't want to crush that, but we are not being loving if we don't speak truth in a very supportive way. I love that you're thinking about your future after high school. I know how much you love drawing, and I was looking at some information about this amazing art school. Like, talk about alternatives. And you can't, you get the idea. Relevant, it's going to be relevant if it's kid led. And for you, we're talking about you're basing it on values and asking yourself why this is the goal. And then time bound, by when do you want to achieve it? Be sure that you have these little check-ins. Don't wait. I'm going to have it done in a month or 6 weeks. Don't wait till 6 weeks. Have these little check-ins. And if tell me about your step points. What can we do to help? Talk through those things, but look how much progress you've made. Be sure you point out progress so they don't get discouraged. Do that with yourself. You wanted to lose 5 pounds and you lost 2. Guess what? 2's more than 0. You're making progress. Again, I'm only using the weight thing because it's one of the most common goals and it's just demonstrable in this conversation. But that is what SMART goals are. If we just say, I want to do this, and we don't think about how we're going to get there, how we're going to recalibrate, why I know it's doable, what support system, where am I getting information, and we fall short, that becomes part of our narrative, and we think that we don't stick to things or we can't do it. Another way to get kids motivated on this is goals teach me about what are some benefits of setting goals. They teach me about my strengths. You already are such a good athlete and you're wanting to work and become good at lacrosse. You've never played lacrosse before, what are some strengths that you can apply from football that will apply to lacrosse? What motivates me? Sometimes I talk to parents a lot where they're like, my kid doesn't care about anything except video games or girls or whatever.
Right.
Video games always seem to be in the mix.
Yeah.
And I totally get why they're saying that because it can look that way. I bet they're not apathetic. I bet that things are a chore and they're out of steam. They might be in the fight or flight response, or they don't know. We've got to grow self-awareness. If you feel like your kids really don't have a sense of who they are, I did an entire show on that topic, or you can reach out to me, or I can give you a list of really introspective questions that help garner self-awareness. Perseverance, when the going gets tough, you keep going. Reading stories about this, or when people, I say this a lot, but somebody they admire who's made mistakes and what they learned from it and them talking about it, or inventions that were born out of mistakes, or depending on age and development, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, being in a Nazi concentration camp, decision making, and that's just deciding what the goal is. It's also deciding how to pivot when things aren't going so well, or deciding what's the best course of action here. Celebrating progress, not just the end result. That is such a growth mindset thing. I'm making progress. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting better. Responsibility. This is huge for teens. When you stick with this goal, it's showing me that you're growing in responsibility. And when you grow in responsibility, those with responsibility also get more privileges. Like if let's say you have a teen who's like, why won't you let me borrow the car? And it's because their behaviors indicate some irresponsibility. When they start understanding that responsibility comes with privileges, that is, you've got an intrinsic and an extrinsic motivation going. But tweens and teens, one of the primary goals of development in this stage is growing in independence. And that is a core component of intrinsic motivation. Okay. But I love this. Confucius. I mean, I've heard he was kind of smart. The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. That's the whole one rung on a ladder. I think I need to remember that sometimes. It's like intellectually we can know it, but every step closer is that much further than you were. And really celebrating that instead of beating yourself up for what didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And Socrates, the secret of change is to focus your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. I mean, just listen to it. It's really powerful to log your thought patterns or those of your kids. If you hear them saying like, "Oh, I'm so stupid," or "Nobody likes me," log these things and really get insight into how they're feeling about themselves. And then watch the shows I've done about how to rewire the brain away from that. But also, if they are struggling neurodevelopmentally, take care of the root cause of those struggles as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for everything today, Heather. This was absolutely what we needed in the new year to start the year off right and set those SMART goals. But I also love how you went over the word and maybe focusing on a word that can encompass a lot of things. So I think that's something I'm going to do with my family this week. So I'm very excited for that. As you can see, these are all the ways that you can reach out to the local Brain Balance near you. And Heather is always checking the inbox. So let her know if you have questions and sign up for her newsletter. It is fabulous. Do you have anything else to add, Heather, before we sign off?
I don't think so. Happy New Year. And I hope 2023 is the best yet.
Absolutely. See you next week, everybody.
Bye, everybody.